Can I call you Luke?
Yes, of course you can.
All right, I have to tell you a story immediately because it's been killing me all day.
Hmm.
Do you remember Donna Pascal?
Sure. As a matter of fact, I met her through I don't know, how do I put this, ex-brother-in-law,
That's
Bob Hayes.
exactly
We were
how.
friends. We used to hang. I'd see her over his pad like 35 years ago or something like that.
That's exactly
She was a
correct.
very lovely person, as I remember.
She is a lovely person. So I get a call from Donna today. Donna's a
Mhm.
good friend of mine. I love Donna. She says, for those of you, everybody knows Donna Saturday Night Fever, brilliant actress.
Sure.
Okay, so she's really good friends with Robert Hayes, your ex-brother-in-law. She says that when
I
you
just saw him the
guys,
other day where it's not like a bad vibe or nothing like that.
no. This is a good story. This is a
Oh,
happy
okay, yeah.
story.
I'm just
I
saying
wouldn't
Bob and I are cool, man. I love Bob. Matter
I
of fact, he
wouldn't
was
throw
my
you under the
friend first,
bus.
know.
I wouldn't throw you under the bus. I'm not going to do that to you. So, all right. So, you guys, your kids all were about the same age, and you used to have crazy birthday parties for your kids. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you had crazy birthday parties. So, one of them was a Toy Story birthday party. Does that sound vaguely familiar? There was a Toy Story
Oh
birthday
man,
party.
you're gonna start asking me memory questions.
Okay.
I'm
So,
not
you don't have to
strong.
remember. So, anyway, you're
But
sitting with,
yeah, I'm sure something of that, like
yeah.
that would go down. Yeah.
So you're sitting with Donna and Arnold, and she says, I can't believe this. Look at this. There's Buzz and Woody. And she said, without taking a breath, without missing a beat, just said, I love a good party with Buzz and Woody. To this day,
I was still drinking back then.
you were.
I
But
mean,
it's
it
a
was
ha-
30 some odd years, 30 years ago or something like that. Jake's what it gotta be. Well, my oldest son is 36, Jake's like 34 or something like that.
There you go. It was a long time ago. So since you brought it up, so let's talk about that. So I didn't know that you don't partake of the I'm reading your book.
God took my drink tickets away about 14 years ago. He
So
said it
you're
was time to stop. And I just finally stopped. I wrote
did you
about it
have
in
a
my book.
defining incident? Did you have like a bottom? Did something happen?
Yeah, man. I felt like shit all the time. I got so bad that I was starting to drink the hangovers away, and that's when you know.
So
And I was like, I snuck out in my garage at 10 in the morning, and my then wife, ex-wife now, and we're cool, we're pals, we got two great kids. Um, she caught me. And
how'd
I
she
was
catch
like, I
you?
had a bottle. I mean, I didn't fuck around. I mean, I went right for the ice cold, absolute, right out of the bottle, big fucking, and I glugged it as if it was like a cold soda on a summer day. And as I took the last tug, I got a cigarette in my hand. My ex-wife standing there as I closed it was right out of a movie. You close the door and there's a face there. And she goes, so it's come to this, right? I was like, and it really hit me like a ton of bricks. This is what I've become. And I had been feeling it sneaking up on me. It all starts out really innocent fun when you're kids and young rock and roll, woohoo, let's party every night. And you can hang with it in your 20s and 30s and shit, but you hit a wall with it at some point. Some of I just I didn't I couldn't it runs in my family. My mother died from it. There's a lot of people that have messed up in my family because of it or died from it or some related aspect of it that messed up the family in one way or another. And I'm no different than any other family on planet Earth. We all have every ism in every family, so everybody kind of knows what it is. There are various degrees of it. It's not my prouder moments, and it started to affect everything in my life in a negative fashion, and I felt terrible, and it was time. I stayed at the party too long. I can't hear you now. You just turned something off.
I'm sorry,
There
I
you are. You're
accidentally.
back.
What was it hard to stop?
No, I hit the wall so hard that it scared me. And, I didn't go away or anything like that.
Mhm.
I've been to a lot of meetings. I've been to, I have I went, I kind of checked myself in at one point during the pandemic because I was misusing, this is fucked up, antidepressants. And like any good drug addict or alcoholic. If one makes you feel good, what happens if you take five?
Yeah.
And as I had nothing to do, I was influenced by some very bad people at that time. I had nowhere to go, nothing to do, no prospects. My depression was on fire and fear. I have an autistic son that couldn't get the vaccine. I didn't know if he was going to die. So I mean, if he did get sick, so I mean, and there were some dark people around me at the time, which I'd rather not discuss. And I fell into something that I shouldn't have done, and I was kidding myself because it was prescription and it was like, oh, great, do this. And then I started to need more to just, it was just a bad thing, man. I fucked up. What can I say? And I caught myself and I checked myself into a place for a month voluntarily, and it was very cool. And I got a lot out of it. And I saw some really sad things, sad
Mhm.
people. And I met some really wonderful people who I'm still in touch with. And everybody, yeah, as long as you don't hurt yourself, however you get there, it's on your own. I've been to the meetings on the beach. Most of my friends are AA or AA related or ex drunks or the people just stopped. You get
Right.
to a certain age where it's kind of when you see a
You're
20
either
year old
dead or
kid
in
fall,
AA, kind of.
well, you see a
Yeah.
falling, 20-year-old kid falling down the bar, you go, he's just a kid. But if you're 50, it's not cute. You know what I mean? I had a lot of other internal issues that I worked through. Anyway, I met a fantastic shrink there who's not only my doctor, but he's my dear friend. And we talk 2, 3 times a week. And he's got 35 years. He's an addiction expert. He's a beautiful
Wow.
cat. And I can barf out my sins to him without going to these meetings where everybody knows me, and I don't really want everybody to know about my deep, dark, ugly shit. But yeah, know how great and wonderful organization is, and how many people it's helped. And like I said, and I've done, I socialized. Nobody I know is getting fucked up at this point. You know what I mean? Even my kids are
I
straight.
was just gonna say, how about your kids? Are your kids
My oldest daughter had a little run in with alcohol, but she fixed it.
excellent?
She saw her grandmother die from it. She saw me kind of messed up from it. When they were teenagers, they kind of cracked up at old dad.
Hmm.
What's wrong with dad? dad, dad was fine until he got off the couch. He didn't realize he drank 4 bottles of wine watching television. But there's no problem, nothing to see here. I get up to give him a hug and I fall on the ground. I go, oh fuck. And they go, oh dad, man, what's up? So I felt
Did
terrible
you ever
about,
do anything on stage? Did you ever like fuck up on stage because you were loaded?
well, I drank towards there's parts of my career where I was on stage fucked up, and I'm very ashamed of that.
Did it ever cost you
Or showings, if you
professionally?
will.
Like you're a session guy. You did
I
a
never, I never,
gazillion.
I never missed a gig because of it. But I mean, I play. There's a couple of performances I wish I could erase, and thanks to the miracles of the internet, the more you hate something, the more people want to leave it up there because they get more hits and they make money off their shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like, they at the cost of people's humiliation. It's like that whole TMZ shit. I've been accused of shit on TMZ. I never did. Do you think they retract it? Who gives a shit anyway? But that's not my life. I mean, I'm a piece of love. I have the greatest life ever. My kids are
I heard
great.
you
Everybody's
talking.
healthy. I can't, what can I say?
I heard you talking on I don't know whose show it was, and you were saying that the pandemic was like a really dark time for you, but you
One
didn't
of the
say
darkest of my
why.
life. I mean, if people talk about retirement, so you sit around and do nothing like that? No way. I tried retirement. I'm allergic to it.
But you're a
Just don't retire.
songwriter.
Come on, we don't retire. We love our gigs.
Right, but
You
you
might
but you're a
slow down, but you don't
songwriter.
quit.
You record. What did you do during the pandemic when it was locked down?
I made a couple of records actually.
Yeah, you did.
You know, both of them went double plywood.
You're, I gotta say, Bridges is on heavy rotation in my kitchen.
Oh,
And I
you're
have to
God bless you.
no,
The one I
I
did
got
before that, I Found the Sun Again, was like for me. I did the whole record in 8 days, live solos, live everything. I overdubbed the vocals. It was done in 8 days. I did that one for me, long-winded jam solos, kind of like my what it would have been like for me to be at Electric Ladyland in 1969, but it was
Woo!
done in 2000. That was fun. And then that was like days before the lockdown. Boom, done. So thank God I got that one done. And about the end of the second year, when I realized the lights were going to go back on and we could do something, I had a couple months and I wanted to do something different. I got together with some of the old Toto guys, Joseph Williams and David Page, and I brought in some of the cats that haven't played in a long time, Simon Phillips and Shannon Force, who's coming back. And just my old friends, just did it. Let's go make a shameless 80s record because nobody else is doing it. And we did it. And then, it got great reviews, did great. I did a lot of streams and shit, but my heart belongs to like, keeping the band and Toto and the music alive. And it's
Which
going
you're
really,
doing
really well for
brilliantly.
us.
And
We've
we're
got
going to
like
talk about that, but I want to know when I can come see you play this stuff. I mean, I know everybody wants to hear the hits. I want to hear you play this. I mean,
oh well shit. I don't know if I'm gonna get out to do that anytime soon because
oh, come on.
I got a
It's
full
you
year with
wrote a
Toto and
couple
Ringo.
sexy songs here. There's a
Well, thank you. I mean,
Take
like I
My
said,
Love is sexy.
we did it to scratch the creative itch because you don't make any money doing it. I spent all the money making the record.
Oh, all right. So you talk a lot about Elton in your book, and you were saying how you watched Elton get some lyrics one day, and he just sat down and started writing the
It was
music.
one of
I
the
mean,
most
come,
astounding things I've ever seen. And I've always been a huge Elton fan from the first record to present day. And I had the great honor of working with him on a few of those albums.
mm,
And my first one, I had just turned 21 years old. James Newton Howard brought me over to France, and we went up and we were We were the next band in after Pink Floyd recorded the tracks for The Wall. So it was like with Clive Franks and me and James Newton Howard and Elton. We lived in this house for a couple of weeks. It was magic. I
Jesus.
I absolutely adored every second of it. They treated me like a king.
Ah,
Elton couldn't have been more wonderful, gracious, and loved all the things that I did. He tried to get me in his band when it was all over. And I had to say no. I'm like, and then like years later, he said, you made the right move. But I said, do you understand how honored I was? I mean, how hard I've had some unbelievable offers over the years, but I mean, the band was just getting started. We're on our second album. And I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to my high school brothers who gave me a chance. Jeff Vaccaro and David Page started my career. And I should say Steve Vaccaro. If I wasn't met for Steve Vaccaro in high school, was in his band, I would have never met those guys and I have a different life. So I owe an awful lot to Steve, Mike, Jeff, and David Page, um, and Mr. and Mrs. Vaccaro for letting me hang around their house, when in high school and suck up the fact that like this is what the tools you're going to need to be a studio player. And we were all studying music in high school and it was all we did, and then that inspiration and that training time, I could never, I got an inside glimpse. I mean, Jeff Vaccaro was in Steely Dan when we were in high school.
you know, Snuffy and I flew to Denver to see Steely Dan with the Eagles last month, and we get there, no Steely Dan, COVID, no
Well, I'm
Steely
not privy
Dan.
to any information other than I had heard that Donald wasn't feeling well, and I wish him well because he's one of my all-time. Him and Walter, Steely Dan, that's soul music, second only to the Beatles. Because I mean, in terms of songwriting and that sort of thing, they just hit me hard because in high school we virtually became a Steely Dan tribute band.
But then you had like 5 seconds where you were almost in Steely
Yeah, it
Dan, right?
was. It
So
was in
tell the story.
between the Silk Degrees tour with
Mhm.
Boz in 1977. And there was rumblings of a Steely Dan were going to go out, and Jeff Vaccaro was going to do it. So we were putting off starting our first album if that was going to happen. And then Irving took a shine to me, God bless him, and talked to Donald Walter. I think Jeff put in a good word for me. And they came down to one of unknowns to me, came down to a Boz rehearsal and heard me play. I was just 19 at the time, and Irving took a shine to me, and he says, "Hey, you want to go out with Steely Dan?" I go, are you sure that I'm the right guy?
You didn't.
Well, because I mean, this is my hero, Larry Carlton, Jay Graydon, Ray Parker, the list goes on. All Denny Diaz, Jeff Baxter, Walter, incredible guitar player. You know what I mean? Stylistically very unique. And all the guys, Hugh McCracken, Elliot Randall, I mean, who played on
Love
Reel It In the
Elliot.
Years and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, the list of incredible guitar players, Rick Derringer. I could go on and on. I studied these records and I loved them. I learned. So Dean Parks, one of the greatest of all time. Like I said, I'm forgetting cats, but I don't mean to do that. But those records all the way up through Donald Fagen's Night Fly, which is a Desert Island album of mine. And I love all the stuff since then, but those, from Can't Buy a Thrill up to that, which were the first album of that, it just doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
I was supposed to see Elliot Shiner for dinner tonight, man. He's the guy that mixed all those records, or most of those records. Bill Schnee is still a great friend of mine. These are the best old school. Al Schmidt, bless his soul, one of my mentors and heroes, worked with us until the four. We did a million records together, taught me a lot of stuff. With Total Four, when he engineered us, I mean, he was just showed me so much of the old school way of moving a microphone instead of EQing, and just was patient with me. We had a blast working together. All those guys, George Massenberg, we've been working with some of the Nico Bolas, best engineers you can get, Greg Ladani, God bless his soul. These are names that, Snuffy would, and the cats my age and all know. I haven't done sessions really in 30 years. I kind of stopped like when I was about 36.
What made you become a session musician as opposed to just why were Toto session musicians as opposed to just a touring band?
Really. I mean, we were kind of a two generations of a high school band. Jeff and David had one called Rural Still Alive with horns. It was more like a Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs, and Englishman band in 1972 and 3. And then when I met Steve Picaro in 1974, Jeff was already out. Jeff and David Page, they were already working on Steely Dan records and doing Seals and Crofts and doing all these cool records at the time in the mid 70s. And, Jeff played us the rhythm tracks to Katie Lied before it came out. We were playing those tracks. And, we love Steely. And our high school band was myself and Michael Landau on guitar, who's been my best friend since I was 12. Steve Picaro, John Pierce on bass, who's my first friend in life. He's now playing in Toto. He was in Huey Lewis in the News for 30 years, top studio bass player. And we had Steve Picaro on keyboards, Carlos Vega on drums. We had 3 great singers, Charlie, Lori, and Gina. And Jeff and David Page would come play at our high school gigs.
Unbelievable.
We played like 80% Steely Dan and then everything else, because we love that stuff, And so listen, that was the whole idea. And David's father, famous jazz arranger, producer, and then Joe Picaro, who was top ball studio key, percussionist, and these are the kind of people that were hanging around. And Jeff and Dave used to come down to our high school rehearsals instead of hang out. And first time I played with Jeff, my face could have cracked off. I was smiling so hard. I go, this is the best drummer I've ever heard in my life. And Carlos Vega was incredible. And we lost him at a young age. And he was one of my soul brothers. And he would have been like heir apparent, to Jeff. And he was doing great, at the time of his untimely passing. But hey, man, in this life doesn't, the older I get, the less sense it makes anyway. I can't even believe I've still been doing this long. I'm like headed into I started my first union session when I was 18 in 1976.
What was your first session?
It was a guy named Phil O'Kelsey. And the record never really, did nothing, but it was my first time in it. We recorded it in Studio 3 at Western, which is now East West, where they cut Pet Sounds and where all those legends. All of a sudden, I'm sitting in that studio doing my first, and I saw the trunks of all my hair, Larry Carlton and Jay Gray, and all these guys are in the hallway. And I was the dream. I could smell the room. I could call, I wanted to live in this place. This is how I wanted to live my life. And I met all those guys, talk about geographically placed well. And I just got into I was playing with Jay Gruska, legendary writer,
Mhm.
composer for
You
television.
talked about Gary Stockdale. Did he?
Gary
Gary's a
Stockdale.
good friend of
No, he gave
mine.
me one. I was still living with my parents. And I was, and like the whole deal was like when you're 18, out, okay, you want to do this musician thing, you better be making money at it. And God bless my parents, they paid for music lessons. And I was taking like 5 different lessons at once, plus studying private, plus playing in 5 bands,
How did you
and
know
then
that you
taking
should?
music in high school.
How did you know that? What made you go from just fooling around after you heard the Beatles to like really learning your craft?
I was dead serious about being in a band when I was 11. I was making money at it. And
But not just
it
to
was all I
play.
ever. No, I didn't take it as a hobby. This was my life. My parents used to like take away the stereo and the guitar when I fucked up. You know what I mean? They didn't just beat nothing. Can't I
They
just
knew
get
how
the
to punish
belt
you.
instead, man? Come on, we get over the pain. I want to practice. Or I'd be lifting up the needle to learn a Clapton solo or a Hendrix or Jeff Beck, and I'd play the same shit over. My man would go, "You play that one more time, I swear." Because he
Speaking
didn't
of which, I wanted
understand
to
what I was
ask you
doing.
that. But everybody sort of had either people are like a Clapton or a Beck, and I know you've played with both of them. You're playing to me. I'm a Beck personally. I love Clapton, but
No,
you're
Jeff
playing
hit
to
me hard. I
me.
produced a record on him that never came out, sadly. It was really good too. It was Mono Cace, Pino Palladino, Tony Hymas wrote the material. We did it on Dave Gilmour's studio in the Thames in England. And right in the middle of it, he went techno and didn't want to do the record we were doing. So I never got a
Wow.
chance to finish it.
Wow.
It was some really, I'd love to get a hold of it and finish it, but I don't know. Jeff was very funny about stuff he did, unreleased stuff. He's like, burn it. It's like, Jeff, don't burn anything. And then some other weird shit went down with his ex-managers who ripped him off, and like, some
Mm.
tried to blame me for it. It was very weird. It got very strange for a minute. But then I saw Jeff last year. Thank God I got, I'd seen him a couple times, but I mean, I saw him then last year at a festival that we just happened to both be on, big outdoor festival in France. I got to spend a few minutes with him, and Johnny Depp was with him. Beautiful cat. Love Johnny Depp.
I got to
Humble,
see a show that they
sweet
did.
man. Just was like, he comes up and he's like, "Hey man, I know I shouldn't be out there with him." I go, "Stop it! You're fucking." I see how much fun you guys are having. You're still Jeff Beck, and you're bring some to the party, man. Come on, man. Don't be. He was a really lovely, humble guy, and I
Sweet.
dig him, and I dig where he's coming from, man. I think he was a musician before he was ever an actor. At least that's the way he carries himself.
We saw that show about 3 weeks before Beck died, and
God, Jeff was playing so good too.
he was
Amazing.
so great, and he was having so much fun. He was having so much fun. It was one
Well,
of the
this is
best
a good
concerts
one.
I've ever seen.
It made me happy to see him happen. We got
Oh,
my last interaction was a hug and love you. See you later. Well, let's get together next time you're in LA or I'm around. It was cool. It was,
okay.
but
So
he
going
felt
back,
bad. He felt bad that I got accused of something I didn't do.
mm,
So, with him, I don't want to talk for him. He was not here to talk for himself. God.
there you go.
I
All
miss
right.
him
So go.
terribly. But you know what? The strangest thing happened to me the day after he passed, which obviously I was crushed. I was like, nobody saw that coming
Yeah.
because he was always a pistol. He was always like,
The shape he was in. Oh my God, his
yeah.
body.
I mean, he's just, he's Jeff Beck. What can I say? God gave him a little extra.
Mm.
There's certain guys that God gave a little extra to, and he was
Little
one of them.
extra. Yeah.
And I saw it because I got to sit in the studio and see exactly the
Mm.
process and everything. And it was really one of the greatest times of my life. And working with all the people involved, it was really a lot of fun and very. And he was a hard guy to please, but at the same time, we got some great stuff. And who knows? I'm not in control. His wife's a lovely person, and I'm backing off any of this. If anybody came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to finish something?" I would consider it only if I had, the
The
permission.
blessing. Mhm.
You know, I mean, Sandra would have to say, "Hey, I want you to do this." Otherwise, I don't want anything to do. I'm not here to like glom on to Jeff at all. I mentioned the experience because it was a high point in my life, because he's one of my all-time ultimate heroes.
You have a soulful thing about you that reminds me of Jeff. You
Depends on
do.
who you ask.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I am what I am. Sometimes I'm a bit much for people, because I can be, as I've gotten older, absolutely. So since I've been sober, I don't tend to make a big, here I am spectacle of myself, out of deep insecurity, which is all based on anyway. Um, please like me. I'm so paranoid about myself. So let me make an asshole out of myself so you might like me. And I realized that was a bit overkill. And I'm trying to get into it. I mean, therapy's really helped me, man. This guy, Jason, my buddy, my doctor, he's brilliant, because he just, we get to the heart of the matter, and then he has a way of, he's making it friendly, like he actually cares about me. He's not
Love
one of these,
that.
oh, well, your time's up. I know I made your brain and crack into a million pieces, but our time's up this week. That's the kind of shit that would make everybody go like this to every possible therapist. Because great therapists and great therapies, great help to anybody, whether you think you need it or you don't, because we've all got pent up childhood crap, and everything that made us who we are today has affected us, even to the point of, why do I drink too much? Well, my mother died from it, and that was pretty sad, because her father was a raging alcoholic, and on my father's side, there was issues too. So it was like I was gonna. Now my sister didn't get that, and in cases of other people that can have an alcoholic brother or sister, but like, for example, my oldest son Trev, he can drink like a gentleman.
Mhm.
And my oldest daughter, when I would get stupid, and it was scary for me because I didn't want her to go down the path of my mother. But now she's been sober for 5 years, trying to have a baby. It's all great. Maybe I shouldn't have talked to her at school. I'm not mentioning any names, but and my younger kids are great. I have a daughter in high school, and then I have who's a straight edger, skating, A+ student, never done a wrong thing in her life. I keep asking who the father is, but it's an example.
So now, okay, so for you, you're talking about the insecurity and everything. The music came because, okay, by the way, I didn't mention your book, The Gospel According to Luke, which we were talking about before we came on the air. And
Oh,
I'm telling you,
there were some Christians that were very upset with my title. I'm
I
a
bet there
Christian.
were.
I'm proud to be a Christian. I don't walk around with a flag beating everybody with a Bible or nothing like that, but I find a great deal of comfort in God and everything, Jesus, and everything that goes with it, because we live in some pretty dark times. Now, you can take that for what you want. I'm not a preacher. I'm just saying it's given me a great deal of comfort and helped me through a lot of hard times in my life,
Your
particularly.
book is not preachy at all, though. Your book is so straight
No,
shooting.
man, I
And
make a butthole out of myself. What are you talking
well,
about?
well, as I was telling you before we came on the air, I know a little bit about it, the subject, and it's just a wonderful book. I absolutely cannot put it down. I
Well,
I
thanks. I mean,
really
some people seem to
intended to
like it.
skim
I
it.
was so nervous. It was like, oh God, everyone's gonna hate it. And I'm not a writer. They're gonna pick me apart like buzzards. And for
Mm-mm.
the most part, I got great. I got a 5 stars in Amazon.
It's
And
fantastic. How long did it take you to write it?
3 years.
That's pretty good. That's
I'll
pretty
never do it
swift.
again.
You don't have to do it again.
One
You
and
did it
done.
now. But so one and done.
One
But
and
so
done.
it's
Happy endings. Good reviews. Made a couple dollars to get rich, but I did it. Don't have to do that. And people go, write another book about this. Nah, man, another 3 years of my life.
no, you did it. You told the
I just
story.
did it. I did it for one reason. So every English teacher ever told me I was a bum in school. Right, walk by and see me. Number 1 bestseller. The
Well,
guy you kicked out of remedial English.
don't you love it?
I pulled a great scam in high school, man. How I got through high school.
Yeah.
Because I was studying music so much, it was encompassing my whole day. I would cut school and then go to the music classes in school. Because in 12th grade, all we had was like 4 music classes, and then the rest of the day was done. So I figured out in 12th grade, because I was working and I was also studying music, that if I paid my sister money, she could do my homework and my term papers, and how I got in the idiot classes to be able to cut was they give you the Iowa placement test at the beginning of
Oh,
the
I
year.
remember those.
And I purposely failed it. So they put me in the idiot classes so I could cut school, not do anything, have my sister turn in the homework, and I aced the test because it's like, 3 + 5 is fucking, 8. Okay. And finally the teacher got hip to it. So I'd get it, I'd fail everything. I'd get an A, but I'd get a C because I was
Oh
gone
my
so many episodes.
God.
Now, my mom was kind of hip to it. My dad was behind the cameras and television and film, so we'd be on the road all the time. And my grandfather too. But I had no interest in any of that. Long story short, I had worked and I had my own phone because my dad was pissed off. I was getting a lot of work calls on his phone where he got his work. And these are all rotary phone days. So he says, I'm going to give you a phone
I was going to say,
for
you didn't have a
30
cell
bucks a
phone.
month.
There wasn't cell
And he
phones.
goes,
Yeah.
you put this in your room and you have your work calls go through here. And I don't want to hear any of your, you have your friends and this, leave my phone alone. Yes, sir. I figured this is great. So I had my friend sign the emergency card who works in the office. Then that's what they check the signatures with. And I gave him the phone number of my phone. I just unplugged the phone. So when they called to see if I was there, they would just ring it forever. Get my
Wow.
buddy to write me a phone, I was at the doctor's or whatever. I had a whole scam figured out. And I ended up graduating high school for my mom. The clincher, I was 1 credit short. So they said, you got to go to summer school. I went, summer school. So I took beginning folk guitar. First idiot move I make is I go in there, obviously I've been
And
playing,
you start playing.
14 years or whatever already. I'm studying music. And these guys are struggling to play an E chord. Lots of girls in the class. So of course I'm in there and I start shredding to impress the girls. And all of a sudden I get one of these from what are you doing in here? And I looked at the guy, and he was a very cool guy, Mr. Neal. He was the guy that introduced me to Steve Porcaro, actually. He was a music teacher.
Wow.
And but he knew me from the school and all this stuff. And he goes, what are you doing in here? And I go, I'm 1 credit short, man. Summer school, come on. He goes, what are you studying right now? And I said, here's my books. And I showed him what I was studying and blah, blah. He goes, all right, man, here's what's going to happen. You're going to come here, and it's a 3-hour class. You're going to spend 3 hours in that rehearsal room working on your studies. You're going to show it to me at the end of the day, and you're going to do a little recital at the end of this thing and play and sing, and I'll pass you. He was very cool, and he did that for me.
How cool is
And I
that?
graduated high school sitting in a cap and gown for my mom and dad, because my mom was not going to have me being a high school dropout.
Good for her.
Although I kind of dropped out in 12th grade.
Although you were kind of like a hoodlum. I was reading in your book
A
about
what?
you were like stealing ice cream and pizzas out of the back of
Well,
trucks, and
come on. That was
you
just, late 60s, early 70s, mischievous young boys. See, there's no cell phone. We created a lot of havoc because we could disappear.
What do you mean?
I mean, we could disappear from the morning till the street lights come on. And our parents had no light. We were in the hood somewhere. There's a lot of kids. There was 3 or 4 bands in the neighborhood, and we all hung out. And there was a burger joint and a taco joint,
And drinking Boone's Farm, which I remember
well,
well
we
myself.
started in with the Strawberry Hill and the beers about 14 years old. It was
So,
it was my bad Mexican weed and shit like that.
but you didn't really like pot. Pot was my
I didn't
drug of
really
choice,
like
but you
pot,
didn't really
man.
like
Jeff
pot.
Picard
Yeah.
taught me how to smoke it again when I was 20. I had a very weird experience when I was young in a black
What's
light
that?
when I was 14 years old. Well, I couldn't get high from it. The first time when it was back in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
old days when the weed was crap.
Dirt weed, yeah.
$10 for a 5-finger lid, remember? And my friends were into it, and I was kind of like, well, I wasn't really into it, but I'd try it, and nothing happened. And one day we were sitting in there, and they built a water pipe out of a small kegger of beer, and one
Yeah.
of my boys smoked the whole joint in one hit. I propped up. We were listening to like James Gang Rides Again, and we had Blacklight Room, and it was all of our buddies, and all those cool posters, and You know, my buddy's mom had 8 kids, but he was the eighth kid, so she didn't care at this point. So we had our own thing, and we had our band gear set up. Nobody ever bothered us, so we get away with murder. So I was in there, and I fucking, everybody's smoking like the fucking 10th joint. I'm going, I don't feel anything, man. And everybody's blazing, and all of a sudden it goes during the slide up of on the bomber on James Gang Rides Again. That's when I got my first rush, and it was like somebody punched me in the face, and I had to go home an hour later. Purple red eyes, high as a kite, didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, 13, 14 years old. My mom's like, "What's with your eyes?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm sleeping at my friend's house." Stupid shit like that. I mean, listen. I'm telling these horrible stories. If anybody's gonna see this, they're gonna go, "What a dick," I mean.
Oh, you were a kid.
But I
Speaking
was
of
just
which,
following
you
along. All my friends were musicians. We all rehearsed. We all, we were all. I went home when I was supposed to go home. I love my parents. I had I didn't have like some horrible childhood where I was. We weren't uber rich or nothing like that, but we
your
were.
parents got to see you succeed. Your parents got to
They
see
did,
you.
my parents got to see their investment pay off. They were at the Grammys. They were at my first shows with Boz, and Boz was very gracious to me when I was young. That was a big deal for me to get that gig, especially being so young.
And your parents got to see Toto. Yes.
They got to see them. My old man was visibly touched, but he was a Marine, so he didn't really show his emotions that much, My mom saw him like, he was like, wow, I had no idea, the kid, I played some solo and I got some good vibe from it or whatever, some sort of ovation. And then my dad was just like, because he was always on the road. My mom was the one that kind of looked the other way at some of my, these were the days. My mom was very cool because she was 19 years old when she had me. So she was playing rock
Wow.
and roll in the house and everything like that. I got all kind of crazy stories. Ask me something else. I'm talking too much.
Okay, no. Okay, so you started playing music because even before the Beatles, from what I read in your
No, the
book, you weren't
Beatles were
good
the
at
real
sport,
catalyst.
but you weren't good at sports, right? So
I
like,
was terrible in sport. I was
yes.
terrible. I was bullied. I fucking, I was super small, super shy, and it was an easy mark. And this is the days when you had to get on the school bus, and there was this
Ugh.
one guy that would torture me every day for years. And if you got meet me at the flagpole at 3 o'clock because you're gonna duke it out, you had to show up.
Oh God, I hope
And
that.
you didn't
Well,
rat
you
anybody out.
know
You
that
didn't rat
guy's
anybody out.
yeah, but you know that guy lived to regret his doings.
Oh, whatever. These were little smack around nothings. Nobody was beating each other senseless,
Yeah.
It'd be like one or two punches, somebody gets a little bloody nose, and everybody goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I feel bad," and then you become friends with the guy.
Oh, that was
It's not like
good.
somebody
That's
pulls
all
a
right.
knife or a gun now and blows your head off. I mean, you can't even make jokes about it.
No.
But I gotta tell you, man, I didn't make the baseball team when I was young. I cried for a couple of days. You get over it.
No,
You
but
don't
wait a minute. There was
take
a
a beating
story in
from a
there about
bully and
you
you
with
don't forget it.
no, but there was something about Little League with you that ended up being part of your musical story. What happened with Little League with your
Oh, I was
dad?
terrible at it.
Yeah, but didn't you
Made
end
an
up
asshole out of
meeting?
myself. The
But
the
didn't you end up
manager of the
meeting?
team.
Didn't you end up meeting musicians or something in
And
your
well, I
Little
met
League team?
the manager's son was a bass player, man, and he was 2 or 3 years older than me. Took a shine to me, and that was one of the first bands I was in because I was
Right.
9 years old playing Little League in right field. Bouncing ball comes, bounces, hits me in the nuts. I pass out. Everybody laughs. This
God.
is like I wasn't gonna be the next Sandy Koufax. Okay, now I'm dating myself. See, that was a star pitcher of the Dodgers in the '60s.
Yes.
But I wanted to. Just the only thing I was ever good at all was playing the guitar. And that
Okay,
was
so wait. So now
real
how do you
good.
know that? So that February night in 1964, I'm watching it. Everybody of our generation is watching it. You're sitting there in front of the television. The Beatles come on, and I read. I'll let you tell it, but I was a George. That's where my eyes went
Well,
when
the
the Beatles came
sound of
on.
the electric guitars is what got to me. The solo, when I saw her standing there, there's something just went in my soul and went on switch. I want to make that noise. And I
And
was able to
you
tell
had not
George
played
that.
at all. You had not
Oh,
played at all.
no, I didn't know how to do it yet. My parents thought it was cute, and they bought me this terrible $5 acoustic guitar and Meet the Beatles. And I still have the guitar. They made it into a lamp and gave it to me when I was 21, after I'd already made it, And so I still have it in the house. It reminds
I
me of
love that.
that I actually like really had to struggle with this guitar and finally make sense of it.
So, in that moment, that's what you want to do.
Well, once I realized I could make some noise with it, and I got with somebody else that could make some noise, like a drummer and a couple other guys, plug in some small little amps, and we could play a song together. And then we played at a birthday party, and all the girls screamed. It was all over. I made $1, just like I thought I was a millionaire, man. And then it was over. And then we played the in 11th when I was 11. We played at the fifth grade graduation. And we played. I mean, I could sing and play. We played the song, electric guitars, fuzz tone, and played Beatles songs, played some Foxy Lady and stuff.
Yeah.
And the girls flipped out screaming, and it was a big, huge thing. And the teachers rolled their ears. And I said, "This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life." I was done. And then I thought, before I realized, well, maybe I should learn how to study and stuff. I had my eyes set on, well, I want to be a big rock star or something like that, whatever that meant at the time.
So at the beginning, you were just playing everything by ear?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was very strange the way that worked out. I was
And so what was the defining line that said, okay, I'm going to study. I'm going to learn how to do this.
Well, there's well, when I realized that, having a career as a musician was more than trying to be a rock star. That was a more heady, more of a lofty ambition, if you will, rather than what sold my old man was this cool guy moved in next door to my parents' house who was a drummer. Like he was Helen Reddy's studio drummer, and session, I mean, live drummer, and they owned a house and had a wife and a kid, and he wasn't famous. So my old man was like, "Oh, okay. Well, you mean you can own a house and have a family and not be some famous guy?" Because my old man working with famous people all day long, not only was like bored to death with them, but it's like, I don't want my kid to be like that. I want him to have some substance in life. And he says, "Well, you're gonna have to get him studying and all this other." I had a lot of other people say that it was time. And then right as that happened, I met Steve Picaro in 10th grade, and everybody was studying. And then it was like, we better do this if we want to do this. It was really hard to learn how to read music after playing for 7 years. You know what I mean? It's like, oh gosh, because
I bet.
stuff, and then it would be like I reading the notes. I had a great teacher, Jimmy Wobble, who was very patient with me. But we put the time. I stuffed 10 years of study into like 3 or 4 years, and then we started working, and that was the end of it.
And so was it your plan to be a session
No,
musician?
I didn't really know what it was and how cool it was until we got in high school, and then I started reading the same names on great albums that I loved. Who is this Larry Carlton? Who is this Dean Parks? Who is this Jay Graydon? Who is this, the list goes on. Lee Ritenour. Who are all these guys? And now they're all dearest friends I've ever had, lifetime friends. Dean Parks. I mean, how many people I sit next to? My buddy Michael Landau and I came up together. He's became a big studio guy. We did a bunch of records together. All the guys we grew up with, made it in music in various different ways in our band. And not everybody was in Toto, but everybody was in our high school band went off to be professional musicians, and everybody did really, really well and still doing well.
And so that was going on. Jeff and David were doing were in Steely Dan.
Well, Jeff
Why
was, but I mean, Dave was doing sessions and producing records, and the Boz Skaggs album, Soaked in Grief, was really the catalyst that started the band idea, because that album became super successful. And Jeff and Dave went out and did some of the first leg of the tour. Then I did the second leg of the tour because we were just out of high school and stuff.
Now, why would Boz hire some high school kid?
Well, I mean, I was, we weren't in high school. Jeff was 3 years older than me, but I was out, I was just turning 19 years old, or I was 19. We started our first demos for Toto on January 4th, 1977. I just turned 19.
Okay, but when you were playing with Boz, that was before that, no?
No, it was after that.
Oh, it was after that.
We did this demos, and then there was another leg of a tour Jeff was going to do, and they were looking for another guitar player.
Did you audition for Boz?
No, they just gave me the gig.
They just gave you the
Well, here's what
gig.
happened. I was playing second guitar to Les Dudek, who was the lead guitarist at the time,
Mhm.
because he had played, slide on some of this other stuff. He was a blues guy that Boz knew and was in his band before, but he had done a solo album. And they wanted me to play all the stuff that was more jazzy or whatever that had the core. It was not. It was out of his wheelhouse. Well, after like day two, they had Boz and Les had a big argument. Les quit. So Boz goes up to Jeff and goes, "I think we got to get another guitar player." He goes, "No, you don't." And points at me. He goes, "Let him play. Let him show you what he's got." And he called off a tune, and I burned on it. And Boz laughed and said, "Well, I guess I don't need another guitar player." And I was the only guitar player, and that opened everything up for me.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And so now Toto, how does that happen?
That was, man,
What?
I wanted to be in that band more than anything in the world because how much I revered Jeff and Dave and the music Dave was writing and that whole sound, that whole LA thing. I mean, well, they make fun of it now, called yacht rock or whatever the fuck it is, but all it was us that era of us all doing sessions. And that was the music put in front of us, and we made those records. And now some smarmy asshole says something about that. There's a movie coming out about it that Chris Cross's daughter made, which we're all in. It's just pretty kind of like, no, man, this is. Let me tell you where this is really at. It beats soft rock. I mean, that sounds like a limp dick bunch of losers at that point. I don't know why everybody has to put labels on everything. Music's music. People are people. Like what you like, don't like what you don't like. But everything. I mean, how many subgenres of metal are there now? It's insane. Rock and roll used to just mean what that was. Now it's what does that mean?
Yeah, you guys took a lot of shit.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of shit.
Why
People
is
would
that?
make up story. Oh, we were put together in a boardroom. So we were high school buddies. What the fuck? Because we were good at a young age, they found flaw. Well, being a studio musician was a deficit. You mean being a good musician is a bad thing? Would you like to have a punk rock doctor working on your brain tumor? Hey, I don't fucking know how to do this, but hey, give me a fucking soldering iron. We'll get this thing out of here. Just a barnacle on your brain, man. So I mean, they used that
Um,
against us for many years, but now I'm proud of being a studio musician. I mean, I don't really do it anymore unless it's a favor or something I like or somebody that wants to.
Jimmy Page said something lovely to you about that once,
What?
didn't he? When you met Jimmy Page, didn't he say something lovely to you to that
Well, we
effect?
went to this thing at Guitar Center of honoring Jimmy Page. And I
Mhm.
went with Eddie Van Halen and somebody else because Ed and I were dear friends. I miss him. That one hurts. We went to this thing. It was a private event for Marshall was putting it on. And I met it's funny, Nigel Tufnell from who was Chris Guest was there in
Mhm.
character as like but when we get there, everybody's coming in. There's all the fabs from everybody, every guitar player in LA was there. We're all gonna buy. I came with Ed, of course I came with Ed. Uh, everybody's like, okay, the
The
map.
C's part, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with him, and then Jimmy Page points and he goes like this, and I think he's talking to Ed. I'm like, he goes, no, 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 you. I'm like, I'm sitting next to Ed going. So he pulls me off the side. And he goes, "Hey, man." I'm like, "Jimmy, what? You're my hero, man. It's so nice to meet you. What can I say?" And he goes, "No, I just want to say something to you. I read an article where you said that being a studio musician, may have hurt your career in some way. And the fact that people don't take you seriously as a musician." He goes, "That's not true. I was a studio musician." He goes, "All those guys in there, they don't know what that is." And I was like, "Are you serious? Are you telling me this for real?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm telling you this for real." And I gave him a big hug and I looked and I go, "Can I tell people you said?" He says, "Yeah." And I never really did. I mentioned it. I might have said something in the book, but I walk around with a T-shirt on about it. And I really haven't seen him since. But getting a thumbs up from somebody like that changed my whole attitude about all that because I was trying to compete with all the rockers at the time, whatever. It was a terribly insecure time in my life. I was successful, but because I was playing on so many other kinds of records, I thought that I was losing rock credibility. Which what does that mean? I was a working musician. How lucky was I?
How
I
lucky.
mean, it
How
would be Aretha
wonderful.
in the daytime, and then Alice Cooper at night, and then it would be over here with Barbara Streisand, and then it would
My
be
God.
somebody else. And that was just in the day of the life of where you'd be doing. I'm working on Boz's new record this week, or I'm doing this. I'm working with Elton over here. I'm working with, I'm not trying to name drop to be an asshole, but it was a pretty.
No, the list is unbelievable. How much of the time, I saw on your discography, which literally is like 100 pages long,
Well, I
that
didn't do that. They did that,
well,
and
that
I
you
don't
had
even
worked
know if
with
it's complete. But
that you would work with Joe Lynn Turner. I got so excited because you never see Joe Lynn's name anywhere. And of course, you didn't even meet him. How much of the time did you not meet the talent that you were?
on a percentage level,
I mean, like
most of the time, the talent was there.
they were.
I would say at least 80% of the time.
Oh, cool.
There
So
were things
you,
that I did, like when I did the skank part on Stand Back for Stevie Nicks. They had tried David Williams and a few other guys that actually did the part on Thriller,
mhm.
and they wanted this real skanky thing going over it. I didn't realize that Prince had played all the rest of the parts, and it was a done record, and they were starting to mix it, and they just didn't like. They had a couple of guys try it, and I came in and listened to it, and I said, I know what you want. I go, plug me DI into here, put a little compression on this. Let's do this, and run the tape, and let me play something. And that first run through is the record. At the
Wow.
end of it, Jimmy Iovine stuck his face. He goes, "That's great, man. What do you want to eat?" And I go, "Yeah, I want to make producer money and do that for a living." I
So
mean,
all
you
right,
wouldn't be.
you've
No,
told the
Jimmy was very nice to me. He was cool. I mean, he made
yeah.
it. Don't he was cool to me, man. I got nothing. I got no beefs with anybody. I got to work with the best producers, best engineers, best studios, best artists, songs, being really creative. Yeah, there were some cheesy ones, of course. As a studio musician, you don't pick the material. You show up and go, no rehearsal, no demo. What are we doing? And a lot of times they just put a chord sheet in front of you with some rhythmic notation and count off the song. You better play something.
But
There's
you
nothing
said
written
something
there. You
really
better play
funny
something.
in your book that I can't it's something about the turds. What did you call it?
Oh,
When
polishing the turds.
polishing the turds.
Well, there
So
was a couple songs that, like, people would go, like, how do these people get a record deal? And they were never successful ones, but you didn't care. I mean, you get a call to do a week's worth of sessions, you took the sessions, and you gave them the best you had. You gave
well,
them.
but
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we tried, and we love to make people happy to see their little simple acoustic song or piano song turn into this. We all come up with all these parts, and then we start layering it and producing it, and by the end of the day, it sounds like a record. And the guy's like, or the guy or the gal is like going, "This is fantastic."
Can you think of an example of something that came to you as a little turd that ended up being something
No, because then I would
fantastic?
have to admit what that is in person, so I'm
Okay.
not going to
Oh
do that.
shit. Okay. I won't make you do that, but
I'm not
that's
going to bag on
no,
anybody because
I like
most of
that
the
you won't
sessions are
do.
great. There's only a handful of kind of lame ones where you go, "How did this person? Are you serious?" But you did it anyway.
What's your process? We were talking about Elton before and how, Bernie hands him the lyrics.
Well,
He
it
gets
wasn't
them.
Bernie at the time. It
Oh,
was somebody
really?
else. But I was sitting there after dinner, and he had snuck down into the studio. We were living in this house, and I just kind of sat. I saw him take the lyric sheets that he had gotten in the mail that day, in the post that day,
Hmm.
FedEx or something, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
And he just looked at him, and he put the lyric. He didn't know I was there. I was sitting in the darkness and I knew I was kind of spying on him, but he was working, so it wasn't anything weird. I just wanted to see what he was going to do, and
Hmm.
the great part is that the piano and the vocal mic was already mic'd up and had a little bit of reverb. It was just sitting there. He didn't know, but it was in the control room, and I remember just it was turned down low, so it wasn't obnoxious level or anything. I saw him take the paper, put it in front of him, stare at it for a minute, and just started singing. And that was the song. At the end of it, he had written the whole song in one take. I was like, jaw dropped. I'm like, how could somebody be that talented? That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And he didn't know anybody was looking. I said to him, I was a man, I saw that. It was a beautiful song too. I think it was called Blue Eyes. And it's one of his most lovely songs. He just wrote it on the spot. It was
Well, how about for
unbelievable.
you guys? How about like this Bridges album that you wrote with Joseph and with
We just showed
David?
up every day, but like we had nothing, and somebody had a riff, and we went from there. By the end of the day, we had a track pretty much flushed out with melody ideas, a lyric idea, then we worked on it.
What comes first usually?
Music, groove.
Hmm.
Somebody might have a title that might, but this album was just done. What do you got today? Or I had a piece of something, that I don't have a recording studio at my house. I just have this phone that, like, if I have a good idea, I'd press record. Then I go to somebody else's house that has a studio. I like the separation between home and work.
Good for you. So speaking of which, you're on the road a lot, like more than half the year, right? You're out there.
Yeah, I got the schedule for next year. It's pretty scary. I did like 200 days this year. I'm heading out Sunday for another month. Right, come home on Christmas Eve, and then next year starts January 4th and ends in November. But just like a few weeks here and there off.
And so how is your life,
I
how is
have
your
no
life
life.
different
I have no
when
life.
when you're
I
on the
don't.
road? What's a day like when you're on the road?
Well, I don't hang out anymore. I don't go out anymore. I go to bed early after, I have something to eat after the show, hang out, have a laugh, and then I go to sleep. I'm usually gone, by 10:30, 11 o'clock at night if we're going on early. If not, then, midnight. And then they wake my ass up when we get to the hotel. It could be anywhere between 4 and 7 a.m. And we sleep again and do it. It's Groundhog Day, in another arena the next day, which is great. But I mean, you stay out for 3 months at a time, it changes you as a person.
So
And
how
I'm
about when you're
only
home?
allowing myself to be out 6 weeks at a time now.
Okay, that's good. And what about when you're home? What's your day like when you're home?
I hide, man. I hide in my house. I get up 5 in the morning. I take my daughter ice skating at 6. We spend time together, have a little breakfast. I come home. I do all the management work because I manage the band too. And so I'm always doing all this stuff. I practice. I still sit here and get up and play. I'm learning some old stuff because we've changed the set list stuff for next year. It's got some great stuff we've never played live before, plus the stuff we gotta play. And we have a long show and a short show, and I'm just putting all that together and getting ready to go out and work. And I'm just hanging out with my kids and maybe grab a bite with a friend once in a while. But otherwise, I stay in my house, hiding behind my walls, and just stay to myself. I'm afraid of the world out there. I got messed around really bad this year. I had a little. I don't want to get into it. It was really terrifying, and trying to shake me down for money and threaten my life and make lies about me to ruin my reputation and my career. It was very scary, and managed to get the FBI involved.
Oh,
Scam
I'm so
plan.
sorry.
They were
Um,
evil people that took advantage of me, pretended to be my friend and all that. But you know what? That's welcome to fucking Hollywood. I don't
um,
wish anybody harm. Just leave me alone. That's all I gotta say. You know, people, the weird vibe about us with people is over. I mean, kids dig us. Right? We have a three generation audience.
mhm.
The people that really hated us the most, they're like, 85 years old, still trying to, like, eke out a living with the hipster magazines or something. You know what I mean? They don't matter, and they haven't hurt my career. They haven't helped me. They haven't hurt me. It just pisses them off that we're successful. If they look at our numbers, our streaming numbers, which are fantastic, 3.5 billion streams, not bad. And that's only in the last 8.5 years.
Crazy.
45 million records sold, and we're still doing it. And we've had
I
lots of
had I
different.
had a rock jam in the 80s in the Village in New York, and the number one song that was played every night, hold the line. I mean, the number one song, jam song,
Well,
like on every
we're
stage in
always
New
there,
York.
man. I don't know why. I mean, it makes me smile. I'm happy about it, but I mean, I don't obsess about it either. But and the truth is, it's baffling. I'm just like, wow, we've got a third act now. We're able to go out and do this, and, like, we were scared. We went to Australia and they put us on the festivals because Africa was going crazy. I mean, like that, and all these kids, right? So we go out there, we're watching everybody before us. It's all just on Pro Tools. They're up there kind of just faking their work.
Mhm.
People are digging it, and we're just going, and we're looking around going, they're gonna hate us, man. They're gonna hate us. And we went out there and we played live. And we ripped our rock and roll shit. And by the time we got to Africa at the end, man, they went lost their mind. It was one of the greatest things ever. And it happened all across Australia. And all of a sudden, all of the arena shows sold out immediately. They were doing okay, but then this put it over the edge. And we haven't been back in a while because of the pandemic and all that. We're trying to get back there either this year or the beginning of next year.
I heard
Not
you
this year,
didn't
but
think that Africa was going to be a hit. You
what?
didn't, I heard you didn't think Africa was going to be a
No,
hit. No.
I didn't get it. I love the track.
Hmm.
We made this record as a production thing. I mean, we had 4 24-track tape machines in sync, which was unheard of at the time in 1981. We cut that song in 1981. It came out in 82 and, lived through 83, 84. But yeah, we just did this. We cut this track and we made all this big, and we knew the melody words. We didn't know what the lyrics were. And when the lyrics came in, it was like, Dave, what? And I just said, well, I mean, it's a quirky little song. We buried it at the end of the album. We never thought much of it. And then it became a hit in 1983. It was #1 record. We're like, how the fuck did that happen? Rosanna did great for us, and we thought that was the way our band sounds. If I had to pick one song and say that's a pretty good representation, everybody shines in it and all that. But that was a long time ago. Still love to play it live, and people love the song, and that's fine. But like I said, we have 400 other songs too, and we try to sneak some of that in for the people that really know all the music and come out to our headline shows and stuff like that.
So, okay, so one of the things that I love about your book is that you're so honest and humble and human about your own like fanboy stuff, about meeting George and meeting Paul and
Yeah,
all of that
well,
stuff.
you never lose that.
And so
I
do
mean,
you,
for example, Ringo's. I mean, I'm not gonna say this sounds weird, but we become very, very close friends. I adore this man. We live close to each other. We hang out. I was listening to Now and Then, when watching the video a little bit, and if he FaceTimes me, I'm like, oh, this is really surreal, man. And
Jesus.
I love. I've been in the band going on 12 years now. We're gonna do some work next year, and I always get to write and play on the albums with him. And over the last 12 years, it's been the best 12 years, 11 years of my life.
I was just going to say, are you having as much fun as we're having watching you do it? I mean, I went recently
I
and it
mean,
was,
I love this. I just have to be the guitar player, man. And I get to be 10 different guitar players, and the hang is great. The people involved are great.
so
Their
now how long
staff,
has
their
it
management,
been?
it's the best.
How long has it been this band? Because it used to be that it would
Well, I've
change
been
a
there
lot.
for it'll be 12 years starting next year. But there have been people that have come and gone. Me and Greg Bissonette have been there the longest. And
But
guys have come and gone, but there's some,
but like John Waite was telling me, like
and
back when he did
that was
it,
before my time.
and back when he did it, like Ringo would have like front men from a bunch of different bands. And John was saying it was kind of a problem because everybody was kind of waiting for their spotlight and it didn't
That's
really
the
feel like a
difference.
band.
That's the difference between those guys, because those guys, none of them were really players that worked on lots of other people's records and stuff. They played their own music well and
Right.
had ability to play, but they didn't. For me, I mean, I was in like, what? What's the problem? Anything goes. What do you want to play? I learned the parts, try to get the right sounds, play it like the record. I enjoyed the process of it, and I can morph into anything at any time. So this band, everybody cares about everybody else's music. I enjoy playing their music more than I enjoy playing my own. You know what I
How
mean? Come
fun.
on. So it's fun
So
for me.
how did you meet Ringo?
Well, I got the call through Greg Bissonette and Dave Hart, who's the agent and director or producer of the shows. And I got recommended to do it, and like I had worked with Paul and George before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I asked Jim Keltner. I said, Jim, put in a good word for me. Greg Bissonette, Dave Hart, and Richard Page said some nice shit about me, and they know me, but I don't think anybody else is involved in it at all.
And did you and
And
Ringo hit it off right from
Ringo has to like the music that he's going to play. He has to like
right?
And when we kind of hit it off right away, and by the end of the first tour, we were buddies. And I can't say enough great things about him. I mean, he's one of the best vibe person. I mean, he loves what he does, and if you see him having fun, you can't go, oh, I'm an old guy, I don't feel good today. It's like the guy's 83 years old and doing
He's
jumping
unbelievable.
jacks on stage, you know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
And he's an inspiration as a human being to be around. I really love the guy. I would do anything for him. I love Barbara. I love the whole family. The whole community they have, all their all the staff and management, and they're friends of mine. They're people that I adore.
It's
And
wonderful.
and like I said, I cherish that relationship as much as much as one can.
You told a really sweet story about when you met Paul and that he was shy and uncomfortable.
Well, we met Paul during the Thriller sessions. That was the first Beatle I got to make. We were cutting. Quincy called me and Jeff and Paige and a bunch of the cast to play on the first song, which was the duet between Michael and Paul McCartney.
Wait, you tell a different story in your book. You got a phone call to
Well,
play.
no, that was um, I got
Oh,
a call from Michael, yeah, but I didn't believe it was him because it was like in 1981 and or 82 at 8 in the morning. I was just going to bed.
and what'd you do?
I hung up on him.
Yes, you
Told him to
did.
fuck off, hang up. Going, which one of my fucking loser friends is this? Boom, hang up. 5 minutes later, the phone comes back. Hi, it's Michael. I'm going, oh man. And then I start grilling him. Well, yeah, you're Michael. How about this? And I was like all hung over and shit. I hang up on him again. About 2 hours later, I get a call from Quincy's office going, yeah, it was Michael. You should probably call him back. So I call back the number and he freaking answers it. I go, hey, Michael, it's Steve Lukather, man. I'm sorry. I thought it was a joke. He goes, I get that all the time. I'm like, okay, well,
Oh my God.
we ended up doing, Beat It and Girl Is Mine and Human Nature, which was Steve McCarl's song.
And so Paul, he was shy with you?
Paul, no, but we're sitting in the studio. We get there early, and me and Jeff are all sitting in the studio. The control room's a cacophony with all the people, even Dick Clark and the cameras, and it was like this whole thing.
Mm,
And it was 1982, so it was only a couple of years after John was tragically, murdered. And so there was a lot of paranoid about him and Linda being out. Linda, who's by the way,
mm.
the most fantastic woman ever.
Wow.
Anybody that ever said anything about her to never met her.
Wow.
She's warm, wonderful, hilarious, great
Wow.
mom, no nannies. She was hands on with everybody and just lovely. And I was up on the stand with her, so I got a chance to hang out with her the most.
Nice to
Until we
know.
started hanging out for lunch every day with me, Jeff Picaro, Paul, Linda, George Martin, and Jeff Emmerich, where I was able to ask every geeky Beatle question in the world. But no, Michael, I didn't believe it was him, man.
So, okay, so I have two more questions, then I'm gonna let you go. So you got to meet George, who was your
Well, I
very
met George
first
by
guitar.
accident in a nightclub after we came back after Jeff's tragic passing in '92. We went out by the grace of God and did a 3-month tour to promote the album Kingdom Desire, the last record we did with him. And Simon Phillips came in and played drums, which was a godsend because he wasn't emotionally involved in it. He was a great drummer, didn't try to play like Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
It was hardest for Mike to turn around and go, "Where's my brother playing bass?" and all that. And we lost Mikey too. It was tragic. ALS with a brutal disease that is cruel. Anyway, long story short, where was I now?
George, you're talking about George, meeting George.
I went to a nightclub. We'd come home after that tour, and I was single, and I went out looking for trouble on a Thursday, Friday night, or whatever. Showed up at this club called the Gate, which isn't there anymore in Hollywood, and I walked in, and there was rumblings that George Harrison was there. I said, and I went up to the bouncer. I said, "Look, I don't want to bother the guy. I just want to say a quick hello, thank you, and I'll piss off." And they went up to George, and George looked over and motioned me over, like, yeah, man, I know, like, I know who you are. And I was like, me? Sat down with him, I ordered a drink, hung out, and I just said, "Look, I'm going to stay for. I just wanted to thank you for my life and my career because I wanted to be you, the sound of your guitar on my son." And I started naming off all the songs he played on, not the ones that Paul played on, because that was.
Right.
And and I was funny, and I had a couple drinks, and so I was loose, but I wasn't obnoxious. And I hung out and spent a few hours with him. I said, "Hey, look, man, we're playing." And 2 nights from now at the amphitheater, doing a dedication for our brother Jeff, who passed away. And Eddie Van Halen's going to be there, Donald Fagen, Don Henley, Boz Scaggs, Michael McDonald, David Crosby, James and Howard. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I said, I'll leave a couple tickets. I know. And we're playing a little help from my friends at the end, just in case. And I knew. I just walked out, and I gave him. I said thanks, and we exchanged numbers. It was really wacky.
Oh my God.
And I didn't think nothing of it. So I'm backstage at the gig, and we're all emotional. It's a big deal. And we're sitting around the piano figuring out who's going to sing one bit on this one last song so everybody can sing a line. And we all come together to get by with a good message, great song. When we did a Joe Cocker style, like Leon Russell, Joe Cocker.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm sitting at the piano at the amphitheater in LA, and I get this thing. Somebody's here to see you. I go, dude, what do you think I'm doing right now? He goes, no, somebody's here to see you from Liverpool. I went, what? And we had everybody in the room. I mean, Fagan, I mean, all the biggest fucking stars at the time. And he walks into the room with dead silence. It was like
Oh.
musical royalty had arrived. And the first thing he says, he was, bet you didn't think I was going to show up, did you? I said, no. I said, but man, we're playing this song. A little help from my friends. And I go, grab one of my guitars. He grabs my old Les Paul. And I start saying, yeah, but we're doing the Joe Cocker version. He laughed and he goes, I start playing in a break. He goes, that's not how me and the lads used to play. There's great pictures of me, him, and Eddie Van Halen playing together on stage and beaming, And he was so lovely, and like the show was spectacular. I mean, it was flawless. I mean, Jeff must have been smiling down from heaven. And then the last thing is like, oh yeah, we have one last guest who was unannounced. They go, there's a special friend of mine here, who my hero, and I can't believe he's going to be here. Just to blow Jeff's mind, blow our mind, ladies and gentlemen, George Harrison. And they had been screaming for us before, but this was like Beatlemania screaming. He walked on stage, and it was just like all over.
Shit.
And I'm sitting there smiling, going, wow, this is a moment. And after that, we became friends. He would call me all the time. We have dinner. Maybe he invited me up
Wow.
for a jam with Bob Dylan. And we had dinner with Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne, Keltner, and me. And we went up to Jeff Lynne's house and had a jam. It was like, I
Wow.
got to be like almost like a Wilbury for a night. It was really the coolest thing ever. And we hung out a whole bunch and then he got stabbed and moved back, and I lost touch. Jim Keltner would say, George sends love and blah, 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 blah. I didn't want to bother him. And then he got cancer and then disappeared and passed away. So he turned me on to TM. He took me down to the center. I mean, I
Wow.
spent time hanging out with him. He came to
Wow.
my house in a beat up VW, which cracked me up.
Wow.
I go out and I meet him and I go, George, what's the ride, man? I mean, this is an old piece of shit. He goes, but they only think I look like him. In other words, like they won't bother. Go, that guy looks like George Harrison, but it can't be. Look at that car. You know what I mean? And so he was doing that
Wow.
for anybody. Not a lot of famous people do that, but he was
Wow.
one of the first. And he
Wow.
came to my house, and I took him up to meet Slash because Danny, his son, wanted to meet Slash, and Slash and I are old friends. And it was just while I could go. I took him to Capitol Records when the Red and Blue album came out. I was working on my second solo album. I drove him in the back of my. He was in the back of my Porsche. We drive in a Porsche, and they had life size, not beyond life. They had like the size of Capitol Records building, effigies of all four guys, for the Red and Blue Beatles record.
Wow.
And he goes, oh my God. He was like completely like, what the hell is that? Such a humble, beautiful cat. And then when I met Ringo, See, I really wanted to be in Ringo's band because I would be a really good asset to the band. I'm just what they want. I can play anybody's stuff, do
Right.
other things, and I have a bit of history with the other guys. I thought that might help, and we did that, and he met me, and we hit it off, and the band was great, a lot of great players, and we had a blast. And he kept asking me back and asking me back and asking me back, and then we started becoming really great friends like off the gig. Come over and let's go have dinner. Let's shoot the shit. Or he played on some stuff for me. I always play on stuff for him. And it's makes me super happy to have that relationship and be involved with him.
I love that your life has come full circle, that this little boy who was watching Ed Sullivan with a
Well,
dream.
that humbles me. I mean, it's an incredible slap upside the head going, you punk ass motherfucker. You fucking just sat there in the middle of North Hollywood going, I want to be like those guys. And I've worked with three of the four of them.
Okay, so
After all
now
that, I
my
mean, 60 years later, here I am doing this.
so now my last question for you, Steve, is do you realize, and I know you realize, how many people you are that guy for now? You know
Oh
that,
no,
right?
man.
No, no, no,
Well,
no.
I'm
Yeah,
still,
don't. All right, you can be all humble and shit,
well, I
but
just
it's
feel
true.
silly to say it. I mean, I can't. I've been around a long time. Believe me, I understand that. I've had a tremendous career that I could never put into words how much it means to me, how honored I am. I mean, I'm not the fastest gun in the West. I ain't the greatest in the world, but I happen to be the right guy at the right time for a lot of different things, and I parlayed that into a great career. So, for that alone, I'm very honored. But I mean, if people
Well,
like what I do, thank
how
you
do
very
you
much.
react when guys come up to you, and I'm sure there are women too who come up to you and tell you that they started playing. My
Well, I mean,
stepson
people
wrote
are
me and
nice. I
said,
mean, especially now. I mean, people are a lot nicer now than they ever were, which is kind of different for me. It's only kind of humorous when I'm out to lunch with my 16-year-old daughter, who's a little bit more oblivious to what I mean, she knows what I do. She's come on the road. She has a great time, but it's just she always asks me the same question. Do you know that guy? I go, man, I don't. But hey, man, they're nice to me. I'm nice to them.
but do you have you mentored anyone? Like, you've had you've had these experiences with your heroes, like with Ringo, with George. So when you meet a young player who you've impacted that way, do you take the time for them? Do you?
Yeah, well, I have a son that plays.
Mhm.
He's mad at me right now, but no, it's not fun. Um, no, I've taken him, but at the same time, he's followed his own path. He didn't want to learn how the nuts and bolts of music, the reading and the harmony and theory and all. He's forging his own way as a record producer, writer, and player. And he's got a great new band called The Effect with Phil Collins' son playing drums, Nick Collins, and they've got some incredible stuff. So if you want to check them out,
I know Jules Galley
they have
sang in my
a
living
video
room.
that just came out. It's the first teaser from their upcoming record. It's called Unwanted. Check it out. The Effect.
I
YouTube,
will. I saw another
Spotify,
video of
whatever.
his called
Very impressive. They did it all in house. It's a great
that's
band,
excellent.
great players, great singer.
That's excellent. Well, you are you're like a lovely, like you're like a guy. You're like a regular, you're a rock star, but
I have a
you're
regular guy that
you're
somehow stole B. Arthur's hair. Some people think this is fucking fun. Who would buy a wig that looks like this? Is my eccentric old man. I don't care anymore.
I really like it.
I
I
mean, he
really
used to
like
dye it
it.
black about a year ago, and then it became.
It's
I don't
good.
want to hassle this thing. I'm in the back nine of 60 now. I'm 66 years old. If you like what I do, thank you. If you don't like what you do, change the channel. If you don't like it, there's a lot of different great music out there for you. But I'm doing the best I can. I'm having a ball. I still can't believe I've had this long career because that's all I ever wanted was a long career. They're all the bumps in the road, and there were plenty of hills and valleys in my career. But you hang on for dear life, and then you get to a certain point where people give you a little respect, and that's what we're getting right now. And I do appreciate it. No sarcasm involved. I mean,
Lots of
there's
it
always
and
going to be a
earned.
couple, a handful of hipster people that just hate us because they're supposed to, or they really don't like the music, which is fine. You don't like the music, that's great, but you don't have to like, wish my parents dead and shit. Like
Oh,
the worst review we ever got is that our parents should have been sterilized so we could never play the shit music that we made,
oh my Lord.
which I
Wow.
made into a T-shirt more often.
Oh my God. Well,
Well, hey,
well,
man,
well.
if I'm going to strike a nerve, I might as well enjoy it.
Well, Luke, thank you so, so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
No, and
You
I
are
bored
so
the hell out of
fun.
everybody. I'm sure I can. If
Not
this
at
is actually
all.
going out streaming and you're going to get comments on this, I can just imagine. What a dick.
No way. I hope I get to meet you in person soon. Take care.
Absolutely. And you tell your boyfriend Snuffy that I love him.
I will.
He's a
Will
great
do.
guitar player, a great writer, and a great pal. And God bless you. Thank you for asking. I'll
Thank
see
you,
you
Luke.
around, Vic.